go, guys. We'll talk about what you guys want to talk about.
You talked a lot all season about kind of your one day at a time mindset. I'm sure you still have that in the off season, but once the season was over the past couple of days, do you have kind of a broader perspective or reflection or do anything like that?
Yeah, I think you shift a little bit. I mean, I think the work is always one day at a time, and that's something I'm trying to live, not just in how we play basketball, but how we approach everything we do. But I think there is a bigger focus when the season's over to preparing for the next thing, and that's next year, right? And I think we'll get to a point here after we give the guys a break that we start to work at that physically in the weight room or in the practice facility, and we're getting back to that same on-court or training state of mind. But right now it's trying to, decompress from the year, to evaluate, self-evaluate as a staff, myself as a head coach, evaluate where the program is, where it needs to go, and the things that we need to do to take steps to get there. And that's kind of what I spend the first couple of days after the season ends or the week after the season doing. Obviously, I'm not just doing it internally, meeting with all the players. It's spring break, and so most of them are around. So I've been fortunate to be able to have individual meetings with them the last couple of days. But meeting with players, getting staff to get notes together and send thoughts my way, and then trying to, over the next couple of weeks, come to some conclusions about the things that we're going to do moving forward. Is there an idea of that already? Absolutely. I mean, you're thinking about these things naturally in the back of your mind all the time, and I'm keeping notes all the time. But trying to really lock in and focus on that over this 2-week period, I think, is really important.
How much has the transfer portal changed this entire process? Is it much different now than 4 or 5 years ago? There was always transfers, but it just feels like it's
different.
It's different.
It's different. There's no way around that. So I think you're trying to get a gauge of where your returning players or potential returning players are. I feel good about the nucleus of this team, but it's different. They have so much more opportunity with initial eligibility, and then there's opportunity from a recruiting standpoint. So we're obviously, having those conversations with our guys. That's really important to see where they are and make sure we're on the same page. And then, paying attention to the transfer portal and some of the things we can do to add to our team.
David DeJulius is a guy that, maybe will be a big picture, a big guy in which you figure will be the future of this program. Have you had conversations with him about what he intends to do next season and what his plans are?
Yeah, we have. We met yesterday. I'm going to allow David, I think give him his right to, talk about that publicly when he feels like it's right. I think that's the respect he deserves. We did not talk about, at that point I didn't realize I had a press conference, so we didn't talk about, that type of thing. But I felt great about the meeting. I think David really believes in UC, in our basketball program. I think that he really believes in this community. He thinks he fits here. He's put his feet on the ground here. I think we want him back here. And I think, he'll announce what he's going to do when I think he feels like the time is right, but it's still fresh after the season. But I feel like we're heading in the right direction, and I think his heart and mind's in the right place.
What did you learn about this roster, this team, this program throughout the course of your first season, and how do you put what you learned into action heading towards season 2?
Yeah, I mean, guys, it's a good, deep question. We're always learning, right? We're always trying to encourage our guys to be learners and to be growing and improving. So I really try to practice that in the position that I'm in. I try to practice what I preach, and I think when you're in the first, it's been 9-10 months now. When you're somewhere for 9 or 10 months, I mean, you're learning at a rapid rate. That's been fun. Honestly, it's been fun to learn about this community. It's been fun to learn about this university. It's been fun to learn about this athletic department. And then there's I knew it was a really special place, but I've learned a lot of things that I didn't know that make it more special than I even realized. It's been fun to learn about this program and the history of this program. And then, as you mentioned, it's been fun to kind of learn about, the dynamics that we have in place right now. When I got on the ground here, late last April, and the things that we've learned throughout the year with this team. So yeah, that's, I'd hope I'd always approach it that way, but it's certainly been in a rapid way over the last 10 months.
You mentioned that idea of like self-evaluation for you and stuff. What does that look like for you? Is that something you have done every year since you've been a coach?
I have. I got a really intense process that I go through, and it's kind of occurring as we speak over the course of the next week or so. Like Chad talked about this, the nature of our profession in the spring has changed in the short time I've been. I've been a head coach for over a decade, and it's changed. It used to feel like you almost had 3 weeks to kind of catch your breath and review some things. Now there's so many more things going on because of the nature of the way things have changed. But no, I have a process I go through, and I will go back and actually watch every game we've played this year backwards. I take notes throughout the course of the year. I refer back to those. I meet with staff. Obviously, I want really honest feedback from players and their perspective, and some of that started this week, and we'll have continuous meetings over the next couple of weeks. So there's a long process that I go through, and I think that's really helped me have better self-awareness and helped me really identify some things that I got to work on every off season and that I want to improve. And that's the same thing I'm going to ask our players to do. So it's kind of like we're doing that together.
Having a couple of days to come off the season, is there any chance to take maybe one overarching positive, one overarching negative, and then being able to kind of use those kind of themes to attack that plan you're talking about? Is there anything that kind of stands out to you when you think about positive, negative coming off of the season as a whole?
Yeah, I thought, you're trying to create some foundational values, right, and standards. And so if I say something positive, I want to make it clear. I'll say this to our guys. If there's something that we set a good standard for that's important for success, we need to not just maintain that. We need to move that standard higher and move it forward. But, there's be a number of things that come to mind, right? This wasn't wasted time and wasted work. It was really impactful work over the last 10 months. One thing, I thought we set a standard that we practice here. There's a standard for how we come in the gym and work every single day. There's a standard for the type of mentality we have to do that work, no matter what time of the year it is. I think we set a standard that we're not going to give in, regardless of how frustrated we could get or if we come up short on certain results. And I think those things are expected when you play basketball or coach basketball at Cincinnati. But I thought this team was admirable in the way that they handled some tough moments and kept coming back. And I thought this team worked and practiced hard. And I don't want it to be the same next year. I want it to be better. But I thought this team laid a good foundation, just to give you one example. But there's plenty. What was the second part of your question?
Just both sides of it, the positive and the negative. Like any one negative that you're thinking, all right, we really have to attack that. Maybe like scoring inside or something like that as part of something that's going to be shaped around your own.
Just like with positive stuff, there's a long list. Depends on how much detail you want to get into.
Yeah.
There's a number of things. Listen, I thought just to stay positive. I'm a pretty positive person. I'd like to think I'm realistic, right? But positive. I thought we set a tone that this is going to be a program built around who we are defensively. That if you're going to play, you're going to have to give effort to guard. That's what we're going to work on consistently and demand consistently. Did that mean we always executed that in games? No. But I think there was a collective buy-in in the locker room that was what we were going to be about, and I thought the guys tried to execute that. So there's a positive, right? But negative things, if you just want to get straight to it, we have to be able to rebound the basketball better and just pursue the ball. Not just rebounds, but there's so many loose balls in a college basketball game. As everybody watches games over the next 3 weeks, you're going to see teams that win one possession games, that advance, and you're going to see how quick they are to basketballs that are up in the air, whether they're off the rim, so they're offensive or defensive rebounds, whether they're deflected balls, like we like to call those 50-50 balls sometimes as coaches, whether they're balls laying on the ground that are total loose balls. We have to be a better ball-getting team. That might sound simple. It's not. It's important when you're probably a youth football coach that you have guys that can jump on a fumble. it's just as important in the level that we're playing at now. We have to do a better job of pursuing those balls in whatever area, but you think about rebounding a lot when you think of that. Offensively, we got to take a huge step, and specifically with our decision making and our ability to make the right play to create advantages for each other. You'd like to have multiple scoring threats that you can play through. And at times it felt like we were, running through David almost too much. Like I thought we were asking almost too much in terms of the stuff we were doing for him on and off the ball. I think we need to develop multiple scoring threats within our team so that, we're not as easy to prepare for, and we create easier shots, higher offensive efficiency. We get fouled more, and there's a long list of things that go with that. Again, this is where the detail comes in, and I could keep going on, but there's a number of things we have to address, improve, and we're prepared to do that.
You talked about the transfer portal. David would obviously factor in this. Do you have a sense yet, what turnover there might be, or if there will be any heading into next season? I guess unexpected.
I've had great meetings with our guys. I can't say this enough. There's not one guy on our team I don't want back in our program. I really liked this group of guys. I think there was times, especially the last month of the year, we were frustrated with results, and that's from the head coach all the way down to the managers. We were all frustrated with results, but the group of people in that locker room was fun. They were fun to coach and fun to interact with. There's not one guy that I say I hope he leaves. That's not how it goes. But in our meetings, when we sit down with guys, we're just really honest. We're going to be really honest about I'm not going to promise anything to anybody. It's never how I've coached. It's never how I will recruit or coach. But we'll be honest about the challenges and what the future looks like. And given today's climate, I think it's not crazy to expect you're going to have some guys that go, man, this is going to be a tougher road to climb in the type of role I want to have in a college basketball program. And you're going to have some guys that I think it's fair. I'm not saying I know of anybody, but I think it's fair to expect for any college basketball program, especially if you're super upfront at the end of the year with guys, which we will be, it's fair to expect that some guys are going to go, man, even if I like it there, hey, I want to have a bigger role, and that's going to be more difficult here, or maybe this style of play doesn't fit me. The thing that would, and that's okay. I think if a couple people transferred 5 or 6 years ago, people go, what's going on? What's wrong? That's changed. You're going to have that kind of movement, and that gives us opportunity on the backside of it as well with people that are leaving other programs. I think we'll have some of that, but it's not like I have anybody in mind. And what I tell anybody publicly or anybody privately, there's not a guy on this roster that I wouldn't want back in that locker room. But it wouldn't surprise me if there's some guys that are looking for something in terms of a bigger role.
One more question.
You spoke about an issue with this team is just the inability to practice. Once the practices kind of went away, the results changed. Did you as a coach learn something from that as far as, look, we're going to be throwing curveballs. We got to figure out a way to just keep this thing rolling through all of that. I'm not really sure how to word that, but you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I thought, again, if one of the things that I was so proud of was the way these guys attacked it, especially with the circumstances, how we all came together, how they attacked practice and how they worked and improved. If that's something I was really proud of, when we got to that stretch in February and we were barely able to practice because of all the games we were playing, and we thought you were in just game prep mode, we suffered because of that. We took away one of our great strengths as a team, which was to keep working and building winning habits that would translate to the court. And so, that was easy to see what was going on. It was tough because it felt like there was, you were trying to fight it every way you knew how as a coach, and the kids were too. But you can't substitute the things that you need to do to continue to build good habits. And I think we saw after the SMU game, we had a chance to really string some practices together. And I saw some of those little things that we've been struggling with were significantly improved in the conference tournament. I saw some just improved play in the areas that we were, I think that are controllable for our team. And so it kind of, I knew that going through it, and that, made it almost more obvious to me that we just needed to practice a little bit, and we were going to find a way to play some better basketball. That's not an excuse, by the way, Keith. I mean, you have to be able to overcome those type of stretches in college basketball. We should be able to, and we will work to be able to do that moving forward. But in terms of, did we try to do things? I mean, yeah. I mean, I think I've said this here before. I'm not being coy or funny. I mean, we sit up in there, all freaking day trying to figure out the right things that we can do to give ourselves small advantages. And I might not be the smartest guy in the world. I'll talk basketball with anybody. We'll see. But I mean, even if I'm not the smartest guy in the world, I think I got some really intelligent people on my staff and some really experienced people, and we kicked around every idea. I think, to go back to a question earlier, we have to have the ability to throw more curveballs, especially defensively. But listen, you put a group together in a short period of time, and you have to make strategic decisions. If you spend all your time working on throwing curveballs, you might not ever have a fastball. And so we were trying to learn how to throw a fastball first, and I think as we progress here, we're going to have a really dang good fastball defensively. We're going to, sit down, and we're going to put our identity on that. But we do need to have some more curveballs to throw. But you're going to work on throwing a curveball, you got to be able to practice it. And so with some more time, I think you'll see more curveballs defensively in our style of play. But I've said this in a press conference, I've never believed in doing something just to do it. And if we're going to do something, it's going to have some purpose and reason.
All right, thanks, Coach.